Now, I didn't intend to make another ZV-E10 video, but people keep asking me in the comments section, what is the difference between the a6600 and the ZV-E10? So let's talk about it. Now, I just made a very similar video comparing the ZV-E10 to the a6400. So that's why I changed the color of my background lights. So you will know that this is a different video because the a6400 and the a6600 have a lot in common. So a lot of the same things will apply in this comparison. But rest assured, there are some major differences between the ZV-E10 and the a6600. And at the end of the video, it's a bit of a twist. Yeah, stay tuned. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, as you may already know, the a6600 and the ZV-E10 share the exact same sensor, and this is a beautiful sensor that oversamples 6K footage down to your 4K, so you get very excellent images. But because the ZV-E10 is a little newer and has some newer technology, I will run down the advantages that camera has over the a6600 first. So the ZV-E10 is much lighter. It is 392 grams without a lens, and the a6600 is 503 grams without a lens. So that'll make it a little easier on your gimbals or your arm if you're carrying that camera around all day. It has the flip out screen as opposed to just the flip up screen. The ZV-E10 has the fully articulating 360-degree screen that flips to the side, which most people seem to prefer over the 180-degree flip up screen of the a6600. I mean, that gets it done, but then if you're putting things in the hot shoe, then you have some trouble. The flip out to the side, even photographers seem to prefer that these days. But of course, that is still subjective. And speaking of subjective, the ZV-E10 has updated color science according to Sony. It's the same color science they say that is in the ZV-1, and people seem to prefer it to the a6000 series of the past. Not a lot of people loved the colors coming out of the old Sony cameras, so Sony has worked pretty hard on trying to update them, and I gotta say, from the footage I am looking at, it is an upgrade. Now, that being said, I often shoot in logs or HLG, so I do my own color grading. That is less of a big deal for me than it is for some people who like to shoot in standard profiles. You got the old Catalyst browse with the ZV-E10. So Sony gives you a free software, which some people say is very cumbersome and very long. Other people have good experiences with it. But from what I can tell, when you learn how to use it properly and you don't ask it to do too much, it can make your footage look very, very smooth. So even though the ZV-E10 doesn't have actual stabilization, only E-stabilization, if you use the Catalyst browse, you might end up getting very smooth footage. It's certainly an option I would like to have in all of my cameras. You can use the hot shoe in the ZV-E10 for Sony's wireless shotgun mic or their other wireless lav mic or the XLR capsule. So that's really great. It's got a better built-in microphone, but for me, I don't really care about that. I'll write it down anyway. But if you're someone who wants to get some high-quality audio, chances are you're using some form of external microphone. You're not relying on the camera's mic. The ZV-E10 has a new feature where you can do vertical video, and with the popularity of Instagram stories, TikTok, even YouTube shorts, you know, sometimes you want to be able to film something vertically, not have to flip it in post. It just goes right into your editing software. You're good to go. That is going to save some time on those short little videos. It's got that product showcase mode, which might seem a bit like a gimmick, but I gotta tell you, there are a lot of times I hold things up to the camera. I'm not always showing products, but sometimes I'm demonstrating things for tutorial purposes or what, and I do like the idea of being able to hold it up and hold it down. That'd be kind of nice. I'm going to call that an advantage. It's got the tally light on the front, the big red record button on top, and then it also has a red ring around the flip screen so that you can see that you definitely know that you are recording on the ZV-E10. And you know, I gotta say that when I'm using a lot of Sony cameras, there are times that I am not sure I'm recording. Either it doesn't have a flip screen, or I can't see the screen, or maybe I can see the screen but not well enough to see if that little red dot is flashing. You know what I mean? I think that's a very good thing to have. It's got better streaming capabilities. With just one cord, you can stream your audio and video directly from the camera. You can do it with the a6600, but it takes a little more fooling around, and it's a much cleaner process with the ZV-E10. And here are two things they talk about, which aren't really advantages at all, but they have that background defocus, where basically if you don't know anything about your camera, you can press the button and it will turn the background out of focus or turn it in focus. But it's just manipulating ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, which you can definitely do with the a6600. So it's not really an advantage unless you're a complete novice at the camera. And they've got that dumb skin softening thing on the ZV-E10, and that's not an advantage. Don't use that. It is dumb. Then the absolute biggest advantage the camera has is the price. Right now, Sony is selling the ZV-E10 for $699 body only, whereas the a6600 is $1398 as of August 10th, 2021 on B&H. It is $1398, which is exactly double the price of the ZV-E10. So do you get anything for double the cost? The answer is yes, but if that's worth it to you will depend very much on who you are. One of the giant advantages the a6600 has over the ZV-10 is the viewfinder. It's a 2.36 million dot viewfinder, and if you're a photographer, or even if you're trying to set up your shot in bright sunlight, I often look through an EVF of a camera to set up my video shots, or definitely to take photos. When I'm taking photos, I'm almost always using the EVF, so that is a fantastic thing to have. And missing from the ZV-E10, I gotta tell you, I would miss that if I was using it for my only camera. I have a lot of cameras, so I probably would take a different camera out to shoot photos. The a6600 uses those new big FZ100 batteries that Sony has, so the battery life is going to be much better. The ZV-E10 has about 80 minutes of video runtime on the battery, and whereas the a6600 seems to have almost 3 hours of battery life on one single battery. It's also, I think, 720 shots of photos on the a6600 compared to 440 shots on the ZV-E10. I'll write it up on the screen if I'm wrong. The a6600 has a weather-sealed body. Now, if you're out in the elements, this is a no-brainer. If you can't take that ZV-E10 out in the rain or the sandstorms or any harsh conditions, this is a gentle camera that you're going to have to handle with the old kid gloves. You're going to have it in nice environments. For me, I mean, that happens a lot, where I have cameras like my little G7 over here. That's my second angle. That is not weather sealed, and I've had that since 2015. Never had an issue with it. When it starts to rain, I put it away. You know what I mean? And I take it out when it's not raining. But now for you, if you're out there, you're filming the polar bears in the Amazon rainforest, you're gonna need a weather-sealed camera. So if that's important to you, take a note. And to go along with the body, it has a much better construction. The ZV-E10 is very plasticky, very light, and likely flimsy, whereas the a6600 is built quite well. It's going to be able to take a whole lot more abuse than the little ZV-E10. And because it has that big battery inside, you're also going to get a much nicer grip, something you can put your fingers around and actually hold onto the camera. Sony cameras are notoriously small and kind of hard to hold, so the bigger the grip you can get on a Sony camera, the better. And if you're going to walk around all day with a camera, I think it would be easier to hold the a6600 as opposed to the ZV-E10. Even though the ZV-E10 is lighter, the a6600 is not heavy, and that nice grip will let you keep a hold of it longer. Now, another point for the a6600 is the Ibis in-body image stabilization. So the ZV-E10 has no actual Ibis. They use the E-stabilization, which goes in at quite a bit of a crop. So it seems like the a6600 has a big advantage with that. But the thing is, it is still not great. Ibis, if you are trying to use this for video and you expect to get smooth gimbal-like footage like out of a beautiful GH5 that I'm filming on right now, you're not gonna get that. Sony wasn't very good at Ibis up until very recently with their A7S III, so you might be disappointed even though it says Ibis. Now, what I do think it is good for is handheld photos. I think that it will help you take photos at slower shutter speeds, and that is an excellent advantage. And having some Ibis is better than no Ibis. Just don't expect it to be spectacular. Still though, it's an advantage. And lastly, the a6600 has many more customizable buttons. The front dial is also, it has a C1 and a C2 on the front dial, along with the manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, the dial you're used to seeing on a camera. Plus, it has extra customizable buttons on the body itself. So if you're someone who really likes to customize your camera, the a6600 is going to be far better in this regard. So which one should you buy? Well, the a6600 is a very good camera for both stills and video. And if you own that camera, congratulations, it's fantastic. There's no need to change. But if you don't own the camera, should you buy it? Well, the thing is, at $13.98, I think it is starting to compete with some of Sony's full frame cameras. A lot of those have come down in price lately. The A7 II and the A7R II are heavily discounted, so you can get a full frame body for maybe about the same price or less than the a6600 at full retail. And then let's not forget the newly released A7C. Here's a full frame camera that is, in my view, better than the a6600 in almost every measurable way, and that is only $17.98. When you compare the two, it's only $400 more. So for $400 more, you're getting a full frame camera that is pretty much better at everything than the a6600. That's why I think it's a bit tricky to go for that camera right now, especially because if you desperately need the viewfinder and the weather sealing, you can get that on the a6400, which is cheaper than the a6600 by a fair amount. And this ZV-E10 for half the cost of the a6600 will give you most of the capabilities of the a6600, save the weather sealing and the viewfinder. But the battery life could be combated fairly easily because you could get a power bank and plug that into the ZV-E10 and you wouldn't have a battery issue at all. And in fact, talking about a viewfinder, you could get the ZV-E10 and a Ninja 5 recorder and buy those together, and that would still cost less than buying an a6600 at full price. So that's my take on it right there. If you want fantastic photos and videos for the cheapest price possible, you get the ZV-E10, you get so much of the goodness of the a6600 at such a reasonable price. You could buy two ZV-E10s and have two angles for the same price and have the same a6600 quality looking at you from left to right. Who wouldn't want that? And like I said, if you need the features like the longer battery life, the weather sealing, the viewfinder, A7C is not that far off in price. Well, I hope this cleared things up for you and you got some use out of this video. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, give the old thumbs up, leave a comment, and let me know, if there's something about your a6600 that you couldn't live without. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure everybody would love to read it. Thanks so much for watching. I'm gonna go change my lights back to blue for the next video. Okay, bye-bye. Feels like I'm drinking apple juice in hell.